We are live. Hey, all. Welcome to Hack Shack Studios. RT Bear here. Yeah, we had a big night last night. Crazy night. It was epic. One in a million night. I'll get into that a little bit, but I want to say hi to everybody. So if we could get a sign of life, that would be great. So I don't know. I haven't done this in a while. If you guys don't know who I am, RT Bear, I have at least, I think it's around 38 years, close to 40 years, logged in as a working comic book artist, professional, mainly Marvel and DC, but put a little time into Image Comics. Yeah, helped a little company called Image in the day, in the good old days, as they say, when money was good, when comic books were healthy, and we all did really well. And those days are kind of coming back. Yeah, we're doing good. We're keeping comic books alive and well here. Um, and by here I mean Comicsgate, man. So yeah, there's a couple things I also want to clear up about the campaign. I've been getting some messages about add-ons possibly, and I think mainly add-ons with the main cover, I think, and the high octane book. And I'm going to go over the campaign, and I'll give you guys a point of reference on that as well. So yeah, we're going to go over the campaign, show some stuff off. I'll probably be thanking all you guys for supporting and backing Black and White. Much appreciated. Like I said, last night was a one in a million night, and I'll probably get into that as soon as I say hi here. So we got Le, Le, Lamagante. I kind of know how to say it, but I can't. I can't say it. Lagante. La, La, Lamagante. Sorry, I've heard people say it, but I can't. It's one of those tongue twisters. In a world where live streams are often scheduled for a specific time, RT Bear can only be late and no, never, never gay, never ever gay. I don't go that way. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just not for me. Stephen Rockwood, yo, Art, what's up? Yeah, see, I'm here. I eventually get here. Like, yeah, it's funny because I put these things together, and I don't realize that you guys are getting notices, or however it works on YouTube. I'm not really sure how it works. So I always think, oh yeah, no one knows anything about this. I can take my time putting this together, and that's not the case. Apparently, Nicholas Gear, how are you, man? Hey, Johnny Rando, backer 166. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much, backer of Black and White Man versus Machine. Bob, yeah. Great show last night. Is John alive? I don't know. I messaged him this morning. I got up late. I got up around 10 o'clock. I think when I left the Jack show last night, it was 2 something. So 2 o'clock in the morning. And Bob had, not Bob, but John had checked out maybe 2/3 of the way into the show. And as far as I know, he never came back. So then just to give you guys complete, like what was going on. All right. So last night, like I said, oh man, I want to tell a story so bad, but I want to say hi to everybody. All right. We got Keith. I'll come back to it. Trust me. How you feeling today? This is all related to the story I'm about to tell. Hello. Johnny Rando, must back again. Yeah, I am gonna. We're gonna do some add-ons, and we'll get into that as well. Martin says I need a high octane with Roquefort cover. Okay, so these are combinations. And you guys fire away, man. So if there's something you want, let me know. And I already have written 72 hour as an add-on, and I have high octane as an add-on. So in the chat, if there's something that I can do to make it, just to customize it more to what you guys need, let me know, because as soon as I get off of this live stream, Pamela and I are going to do an update on the campaign, and we're going to work on those tiers. No more tears. Oh, here it is. La Mahagante. La Mahagante. Okay, it's that hug part. La Mahagante. I'll never remember that, but thank you, man. I appreciate it. It looks cool. Like, I'm one of those visual people. Like, it just looks cool spelled. I'm drinking Coca-Cola. I'm hoping that the caffeine, I don't have a hangover. I just feel a little tired. I think, well, to be honest, before I went on Ethan's channel, I was already feeling tired just from just working my ass off to get everything done in time for the launch. You guys, if you haven't launched one of these things, there's a lot of last minute things that come up to try to make things work. Also, I want to say, while I'm thinking about it, some of you have asked about the not early birds, but about the pre-launch stuff, and how, like, something happened with MailChimp, and the notice. Well, the emails went out, but the notice that was attached, the message, it wasn't there. So it didn't happen. So what I did is I'm just going to give everybody the card. So if you backed a book, you're still going to get that pre-launch card. So everybody's going to get the card. All the pre-launch, everybody who's backed the book. So just know everybody's going to get the card that backed the book. And excuse me. And the idea was to get in early for the exclusives and early birds, and those are all taken. So I think it kind of worked, but if it didn't work the way I was setting it up, I had good intentions. My wife Pamela and I were just not very technical people. So yeah, let's get into this without further ado. You survived the Jack show. You were good on the Jack show last night. I don't remember much of it. Hello, everyone. What's up? Yeah, let's kind of get in. Jeff Potts, I'm getting notifications. Yay. That's good. Praetor 7, congrats on the campaign. Thank you so much, man. And all the success is you guys. You congratulate yourself, man. I'm just the guy putting out the book and letting you guys know. Art is transitioning. Okay. Transitioning to what? Jack show got pulled. Oh, the Jack show got pulled? Why did it get pulled? I didn't think it was that well, I don't remember a lot of it, but I didn't think it was that controversial. We didn't even get into like really politics or anything. Eric Boyd, Art is higher T than John Malin. I want to say I drank John Malin under the table, but to be honest, I really don't know, like, drink for drink, like what he was doing. I saw him doing shots. I think it was whiskey or rye or something, but I still have all my my shot glasses. I finally got rid of the alcohol. I had like empties all around my desk here. So and I saw him drinking like tall Budweisers, but I was drinking beer all night too, along with the vodka shots. So who knows? But hey, I'll take it. Steven says, yeah, I always get notices, but I often sleep late, and sometimes you stream in the mornings. Yeah, this is a little later for me. I got a late start today, just because I really had to sleep in. Art can be a new A for Jack show. They are looking for a replacement. Who is the A? No, Anna is the A. No. She was great last night on the show. John came on after Jack's show on Anna's channel. Oh, good. So he did survive. I will survive. John was on Anna's after the Jack show. Holy shit, these guys don't sleep. What the heck? That's probably why John didn't reply to me. He's probably asleep right now. Hail all, Neon Todd. Jeff wants $50. How? I don't know, Jeff. Is somebody in the chat gonna give you $50? Killing it, Art. Thank you, Bob. Man, this community is great. Bob is a pontificator, and he's a great guy. And man, I'll tell you, the pontificators this week was great as well. Had a great time. All the streams this week have been pretty amazing. The stream, the chat just jumped. I can't find where I left off. Copyright the music. Oh, there was music last night. Oh, the fire. No, Ethan plays it all the time. Everything is Shane's fault. Apparently, I don't know. Engineer Wrecker. Hey, Art, I just got to hear any hangover. No, like I said, I mean, I didn't have a headache. Just a little worn out, and that could have been from just, working my tail off yesterday. Give everyone the card, but cough on them. Cough on all of them. Card? What? Hail, sir, congrats on a quick 30K. Is it at 30K? It wasn't 30K when I started the stream. Something seems to always be going wrong with MailChimp. Yeah, I talked to Aaron Lepresti. He said he had some problems. I think you guys in the chat said John Malin had some problems with it. Yeah. Oh, Gigante is Spanish for giant. Okay. So giant llama. Well, I can say giant llama. So you're a llama? That's bizarre. Got a llama listening to the show right now. Okay, so here's Claire. 137 away from 30K. All right. So Smokin says 30K, but that's after John or Bob. So we'll check it all out. Oh no. I do remember that. Wow, it keeps getting dark and light in here. I do remember that. That's why I'm always overexposed, because the light always shifts and changes in this room. I'm going to turn up my camera a little bit. I think I'd rather it light than dark. There we go. I got a pooch. I'm on pooch duty. So you can see him. He's kind of behaving himself right now. I had this little, hold on. I had this little drumstick that when my daughter was young, she used to play my drums, and the dog chewed the hell out of the end. So I was just goofing around with it last night. And so what Gigante, the graphic novel, is saying, or no, I'm sorry, Gigadeath, the graphic novel, is saying, Art's alive. Congrats on the new son-in-law, Cecil. Yeah, my daughter became the subject of a lot of the show, and Cecil was saying a lot of creepy shit. He was creeping on the kid, as it were. Okay, we got Jasper 9. I just saw a guest waiting. I'm going to get through these. J-Dog, what's up? EVS played Michael Jackson videos. So the video, EVS's video got struck. Okay, he played the Thriller. It was very, wow. So it was on the Jack show. Yeah, I do remember that. there have been much controversial Jack shows. I don't think last night was controversial. Let's see. What's up, chat? Hyper Kaiju is in the house. Uh, yes. Thunder Buns.
What up?
They're chanting. They knew who was coming on. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How you feeling, champ?
Good. How we doing? Yeah, you're in this this little ordeal as well.
You put in quite a marathon performance last night.
Holy shit, man!
I got to enjoy it from the comfort of my my home, my bed. I hung until I don't know, maybe halfway through the Jack show, 2/3, and then I fell asleep. So missed the after party.
Yeah, I think I fell asleep during the Jack show as well.
You were on a roll.
I was a little feisty. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you had some pep in your step last night.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Launching and Indiegogo will do that. I think I was just running on pure adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
You get incredibly nervous and excited, but it's about a 50-50. At least it was for me. And that definitely carried over to, God, I don't know how many hours worth of Jack show I did, but I know I did an hour of my own show before Ethan's. I think Ethan's was at least 3 hours. Do you know?
Of the duration of his show that he did?
Yeah, last night. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 hours sounds about right.
And then I know it was at least 2 hours on the Jack show.
Yeah,
So
at
8,
least
9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, maybe 3 hours on the Jack show. So that's 7 hours of live streaming back to back.
I remember the Bancroft party streams last year when you and I first got invited to the panel, and we would go 7, 8 in a row. And at some point, you just resign yourself to the fact that you just don't feel your butt, you don't feel your legs, and you're just going to party until your eyes close.
You live stream till you drop.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's
Yeah.
like you that day when you fell out of your chair on Adam Frenda's channel, where you just hit that red X, and as long as you do that before you exit the stage left, you're okay.
Yeah. I think I wonder what happened with John, because John's whatever that is, that icon or whatever it is that shows up, this thing here. Where is it?
The avatar.
Yeah. His went up.
Yeah.
But he never came back to the show. So I don't know if he just muted himself and stopped his camera and then just slept it off on the floor there and then got up, because somebody said he went on to Anna's stream.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that when I was getting set up here. Yeah, maybe he took a nap. I don't know. Excuse me.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, we got the Hail Joes. And then you had your moment last night on Ethan's stream with the $300 super chat. You made a smash.
That was fun. Some stuff needed to be said, and I really want to thank him for being so generous with his platform, with all of the stuff that guy's been through. Going from, I was happy to see that he was talking about the class of 2018, because, being one of the people who were around before. I mean, back when Comicsgate was still a bunch of nerds trying to get Marvel and DC's attention, saying, "Stop, you're driving off a cliff." And they just drove right past us. So that was when a bunch of us just said, okay, well, that didn't work. So I guess we're going to have to start our own industry. And so I was there when, that whole kind of shift happened. And there was still a bunch of people. There's still some people, credit to them. They're sticking to their guns, and they're thinking if they can just keep on telling Marvel and DC what's what, that eventually things will turn around. And, honestly, I'm a live and let live kind of guy. If you think that's the way to go, then more power to you. Personally, a bunch of us, myself included, thought, okay, well, that didn't work, so now it's time to try something different. And when the double rocket ships in the shape of middle fingers went up in the form of Jawbreakers, Lost Souls, and Cyberfrog Blood Honey, one knuckle pointed at Marvel headquarters, one knuckle pointed at DC headquarters. And when those things took off, I don't know what was going through your mind, but I was thinking, okay, when that second one went off, I was like, this is it. This is a real thing. It's not a fluke with Jawbreakers. This is the real deal. And
Yeah.
so that month in May 2018, that's when the first day I started building out the Outliers universe. So yeah, it's exciting stuff, man. I'm happy.
Yeah, I think like for me, I work mostly like on instinct, and when I saw this stuff happening, I mean, it was definitely things that this industry has known for a long time,
Yep,
and so
decades.
things. It's so funny, like within that what 18, 19, 20, 21, like 3 years, or so,
Hmm.
um, how much the industry has just come unraveled in
Yeah,
a relatively short period of time when you consider it's been around for 70, 80 years,
yep,
however long the comics industry has been around. um, and
yeah.
uh,
It's
and
it's coming up on 100 years if
a
you
hundred
count
years
if you
okay.
count from the 30s, because there was an
Oh
industry
yeah,
before.
I always think of like Marvel or DC Comics, but yeah, there was an industry
There
before that.
was an industry before Batman and Superman came along.
Yeah.
So it was there. We're right around 100 years, and the way that I count it is that basically 35 ish years. The 90s implosion happened because there was rot that led up to the implosion. So if we count from there to now, that's how long this has been a problem. It was accelerated after the 90s implosion because so many people panicked. Quite frankly, I credit that to a lot of poor leadership and lack of leadership that never got trained up and coached up and put into place to handle that sort of a thing. It
You're
got
talking about
overwhelmed.
the 90s, like build up and then
Yeah,
the
what
demise,
people call the speculator boom and
the
bust, or the
boom.
speculator bubble, right?
Yeah, but I just have to be honest. Like anybody who didn't get sucked up into like just the fantasy of all of it,
Yeah.
I knew it was a moment in time.
Yep.
I knew like this was all artificial because I mean you'd have and it's like you said, you said the other day on the pontificators, and you're completely right. It's all leadership because if I knew,
Yeah.
everybody that ran a studio at Image Comics had to have known. The
Yeah.
Marvel people had to know. The DC guys had to know. But nobody course corrects. Nobody does anything. Like everybody, like you said, they do wait for it just to go off the cliff, and then once it's crystal clear that you're not going to be able to keep going in that direction, then they shift. But you
Yeah.
shift, it's already destroyed. You can't build on any of the success that came before. It's almost like you have to completely rebuild from scratch.
Yeah.
Um, excuse
Well,
me,
it's,
and that's kind of what happened.
yeah.
And being there with Image and all that, like the frustrating part about it, Joe, my whole career is seeing it
Yeah.
and not being able to do a damn thing about it. I'm
Hmm.
not in any position. As much as Marvel was saying, I was wooing, Mark Bagley and Dave Finch away from them to bring them over to DC.
Kissing your butt, trying to sweeten you up to get that contract that they want to lock you into.
Yeah, and doing that, like I have that kind of power to woo talent
Right.
over to these other companies, which I don't. It's
No.
given me way too much credit because if I
Yeah.
could do that, then maybe I could have helped the industry. But I'm just a
Sure.
work for hire guy.
Yeah.
That
Well.
that's all I've ever been. So the thing is,
Yep.
it does come down to leadership. But where we're at right now, Joe, is we don't. It doesn't matter, man.
Yeah. We don't care.
Yeah, your leadership, you're leading your ship. You're leading
Yeah.
the Outliers. That's
Yep.
you're responsible for that. And you
Yep.
know what? If you start bringing partners and it starts becoming big and all that and unwieldy, you might create a juggernaut, and then you might decide to drive it off a cliff. But that's you. You know what I mean? Like you would be responsible for doing that. I don't think you'll do that. I'm just
No. As a matter of fact, I was thinking earlier today about a lot of the corporate comic stuff and the problems that started decades ago and how they got worse. And I was just thinking how I would never sell Outlier Comics, regardless of how successful it gets. So let's just say, hypothetically, since you brought it up, let's say it becomes wildly successful, right? What I would do honestly, is if it reached a certain threshold, or I could if I even see it approaching that threshold within like a year, I would be hiring the best attorneys that I could afford to help me basically write a trust. And I would put the company in trust. And I would, so that it can't be acquired and it can't be merged with any other company. It would basically be firewalled. And then I would leave it to either my kids, who I would train up to run it if they wanted to, or if they didn't want to, then I would just put in a team, basically like a succession team that I could just hand off the company to over a period of time, where I could coach them up to run it the way that I did, with the kind of people that were around me that helped me get to that point, to serve the kind of customers who would actually fund the whole thing. And then I would step away while I was still like mentally and physically fit. And then I'd be available on a consulting basis if they needed me. But otherwise, it would just be in trust. And then that way, it would have to either be continually handed off in the same way in order to continue, or else it would just slowly kind of come down and then go away. And then that legacy, whatever it might be, would be preserved.
Right. Let's check out the campaign. People are saying 30. We're over 30. I think Johnny Rando was a key factor in here.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. Let's see. Screen share. Bunch of buttons to click. I think this is it. Yes. Oh yeah. Okay. 30,111. That is sweet. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, backers.
Yeah, 357 backers. We're not even days end yet, like first 24 hours. So this is truly remarkable, you guys. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, Johnny pushed us over the edge. He just said it in the chat.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, and so I was going to go over the campaign, but we'll do it later because Joe and I are, we always get in these great conversations. But I did want to show real quick that Joe is one of the stretch goals here. So if we can get this thing going to what is it, 75? Was that it, right? 75K. Then you will get the Joe Fulton and RT Bear plot breakdown. So what that is that that's Joe and I's writing. So the script, and you'll get the plot breakdowns, all the drawings and stuff that I did. But these will be PDFs. These won't be like the actual like original draft of anything.
Those are going in the T-Bear vault.
Yeah, exactly. I might make them available though, because I think some of those little doodles are pretty cool. So
they are.
Yeah, I might sell them later down the line on the campaign. So thank you guys. I want to come back and continue what Joe and I were talking about, because where was it? It's right here. I thought that this was a good way to kind of these tangents are always the best. We never planned this conversation, but we kind of got here, and we'll just write it out. A great documentary on YouTube about heritage auctions. Grading turns out the same guy who did speculation on coins in the 80s was behind the speculation of comics in the 90s. Now video games. I heard it was wasn't it like trading cards? I thought trading cards was the speculators before comics, and then those guys came into the industry.
I've heard it argued both ways. I was into both at the same time, and I never really got into the research that deep as far as which came first, because my memories of it when I was working in the comic shop is that it all blew up at the same time.
Okay. Yeah.
It might have been a regional thing. It may have just been a hit SoCal, like in our area. It was cards and comics just went right through the roof, and all of a sudden we were off to the races.
Well, all the shops were like card and comic shops, and then all the conversation was cards, and then even like Wizard, they would package like exclusive trading cards in the comic, and I think Image did a lot of that stuff too. I think there's a black and white trading card in the day, like a '94 trading card that we did. So that's what I always thought. I didn't know that they were coin collectors that were involved as well. But yeah, I mean, these things happen. but you gotta keep your eyes open. You gotta go, well, this is,
Yeah.
and this is how I knew is you would go do these signings and they would be crazy, Joe. I mean, there would be like lines and it would be
Hmm.
like you're a rock star.
Yep.
But the people would bring their comic book in and they'd be in a board and bag and they would
Hmm.
treat them like they were, gold
Treasure.
treasure.
Yeah.
And, you'd see these guys pull it out of the bag for you to sign it. And very careful, all that stuff. And so you would ask them, it's like, did you read it? Did you like the story? Did you enjoy it? What's your favorite things? You just try to have conversation with them
Yeah.
about what you had created. And they'd go, no, it'll ruin the value if I read the book. So,
That's
so
sad.
yeah, there were a lot of people that weren't really enjoying the books. They were just kind of collecting them, thinking that they were going to be some kind of like stocks and bonds. You know what I mean? Like this is like
Right.
buying real estate, and this is going to be part of your portfolio, your financial portfolio. And it really wasn't. And even the collectors, I thought, like in the day, I was like, there's three criteria. There was condition, there's rarity, and there's demand.
Yeah.
These books aren't going to hit any. I'm sorry, you guys. I mean, I really do hate to talk this way, but that was it. Like there
Yeah.
were million print run.
Hmm.
Everybody had one, meaning there would be no demand for them because the print run's so high. There's no
They
risk.
killed. They killed. They killed two legs of that stool, basically at the same time with those exorbitant print runs.
Right.
You took out rarity and you took out demand.
Yeah.
If they and it was a lot of it just came down to, in my opinion. I mean, I lived through it, but you were a bit older than me, so you were an adult when I was still a teen, and I first got suckered into the whole idea of you could pay for college, with your comic collection. And so I was getting doubles of everything that I thought was going to go up. I had my nose in all the speculator guides, all the price guides. I was reading all the articles. And one thing I have to say though, Art, I don't know where you stand on this, but for me, when I look back on it, I'm like, okay, me as an adult, very experienced compared to me as a kid who, I was able to run a shop at 17, 18 years old, but I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know anything
Right.
about economics. So I was actually following the lead of people in the industry who were hyping all of this up. And I was following what they were saying. And I thought, okay, well, they built this industry up from nothing. They must know what's going on. So I'm just going to follow what they're saying. Again, comes back to leadership.
And if you're running a comic book shop, there was money to be made. People did make money. Comic book shops did do well. But the thing is, this is the problem where nobody had a parachute. Nobody wanted to come to even like entertain the thought that this was going to end or could end. Like nobody even wanted to think about this stuff. And I remember, Panosian was a studio mate. We shared office, and I
Sure.
hung out with the younger guys too.
Yep.
And we used to talk and tell those guys, like, because Dan was in complete agreement. This is a moment in time. So we were socking money away. We were trying to make as much money, as we could at the time because we knew that it wasn't going to last, and tried to tell others the same thing so that they could kind of squirrel away some of this success that they had built, that they'd worked so hard for. And the problem being, most of them didn't. And I just thought, even these studios, once again, like you said, leadership, they didn't course correct, man.
Right.
When the writing was on the wall, they didn't course correct. And man, I was there when Extreme Studios started sinking.
I
And
know.
well, I was already gone. Like I got to clarify, I was gone.
But
Um,
you were out Extreme's door, but you were still had a front row seat and watching what was happening.
Yeah, I was friends with all those guys. We
Yeah.
all lived in the
Right.
same area, and
Yep.
then so Jeff Matsuda, myself, Chap Yape was
Hmm.
he was in and out. Like he wasn't officially out of the studio, so he was still doing a lot of work for Rob, but he
Right.
worked most of the time out of our studio. So Jeff and I looked around for a studio. We found a studio, and then it just kind of became a haven for everybody that was having a hard time
Yeah.
not getting work, just things like that at the studio. So we got to see that, all that happening, and it just broke my heart because I was just kind of like, Rob, and wasn't just Rob. It was all those image guys,
Mhm.
except Todd. Like there was some guys, but they kept acting like there was no problem. They
Yep.
kept acting like everything's fine,
Yep.
and there's just no more money to pay for anything.
Mm-mm.
At some point, it's like this is like socialism, right? At some point, the check is due. Like at
Yep.
some point, there's no money, and that was the thing. Like that was the hardest to see, is that there was no leadership. There was
Yeah.
no real course correction, and my gosh, like I used to say this, Joe, and you're a business guy, maybe you'll appreciate this, is that I always thought, like, if you're a businessman and you're printing money, right? Meaning you just have so much cash coming into your company, then if you make a mistake,
Yeah.
you can eat that cost. You can eat that money that didn't pay off,
All
right?
those cash reserves.
Right. But if you are hand to mouth, like you're riding a tight ship, right? Everything is, then if you make a mistake, you go under. You can't absorb it. You're gone. So most of the time when you run a tight ship, which I did at Hack Shack Studios, I
Yeah.
mean, Hack Shack Studios was around for 25 years, something like that, in the day. I
Hmm.
mean, it was a tight ass ship, man. There
Yeah.
were months we did great. There were months that we did okay, but it all balanced out, and we never got crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We never, and that's the sad part about it as well, is we never could dream too big, because that would require more money,
Yeah.
and the more money invested, the farther it is to fall, all those things. So it also it has to be a balance. You have to be brave to kind of like put money into the business that you may not have, take a loan, whatever, to kind of move it forward. But at the same time, everything has to everything has to pay for itself. Everything has to sustain itself. And I just thought that, like Extreme, Wildstorm, Top Cow, a lot of these studios were so used to having all this money come in, that if there was a hit or there was a problem, it
Yeah.
didn't matter. They could just absorb it, and it would be absolutely no problem. But
Sure.
then as those years went on, they just couldn't do that. And so because that was their business model. Their business model was to throw money at it. The business model was, oh, well, if there's a problem, just throw some more cash at it. Or if
Yeah.
there's a problem and we lose money, no big deal.
Well, and no. Here's the thing. So people at Marvel understood, or maybe they did. Some people at Marvel understood that those founders of Image were rock stars, right? Now, my question, and I already know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. It's a rhetorical one. My question is, if you are corporate leadership and you've got these rock stars who are just making waves all over the place, don't you think it would be a good idea to try to keep them close and to coach them up while incentivizing them to stay with you, so that you can raise all seven of these guys up at the same time to be the next generation that's going to lead Marvel into the future?
And they
I mean,
already were. Yeah.
and well, so they had the artistic skill for sure, and they
Yeah.
had the charisma. Most half of them, at least, right, had the charisma. I mean, Todd and Rob alone had charisma for days, and
Yeah.
that's just to roll out of bed in the morning. So as a group, they could, have all risen up and been coached up and incentivized to stay with Marvel the whole time, starting with giving them the amount of respect that they felt like they had already earned, much less quote unquote deserved. And young cocky guys, highly skilled, highly adored. Of course, they're going to have big egos. But if you're an executive with any common sense at all, then how to keep those guys happy and encourage them, incentivize them to rise up within the ranks of Marvel. And then when you're ready to retire, you hand it off to those guys. And then you watch what they do with it. But that's not what happened. Instead, those guys basically, everybody I'm sure has heard at least some version of the story, so I won't get into it, but they felt like they were disrespected repeatedly over time. And at the end, they decided they had enough. So they decided to go their own way. And then that left a ginormous hole, a sucking giant hole of skill and experience and charisma and hype that just disappeared virtually overnight. And
yeah, the Marvel stock went down, like, because they had
yeah,
just went public just before that. There were articles in Forbes magazine. It was not a small thing.
No, it was huge.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like Marvel didn't feel it right away because they did groom talent, and that's the problem between like kind of what we're doing and then corporate mentality, because Marvel was like, it's the IP, it's not the individual, it's not the creator.
Yeah.
So there becomes kind of like a god. Like, who do you worship? Do you worship the talent, or do you worship the IP? And so then there becomes kind of this rivalry between the two. But this is the thing that fucking drives me crazy in life. Everybody wants things to go here or here. Everybody wants to line things up and put this in this box and everything, because it's easier for them to think about it. It's easier for you to comprehend stuff if you can put things in this nice little column. It's Comicsgate in the mainstream. You know what I mean? It's always these things. But just think about this, kind of what you were saying. Deal with these guys.
Yep.
Yeah, they're pains in the ass. Yeah, their egos are going to be through the roof. But use these guys. Let them be the rock stars. Let them get the headlines. And then you know what? Aim them in the right direction.
Exactly.
Put them in places where it's positive, where you can make money off them, and you can use this as the best of both, corporate and talent. Like, but there just isn't. It's like, we're going to destroy you. We're going to destroy you. You know what I mean? And so then there's just this. And then always short term. This is the thing. Always short term. One of them will win. But long term, neither one of them do. Where's Image Comics? Where's Marvel Comics? Right? They just decided that they weren't going to work with the talent. And everything after that, after Marvel had all the big guys from Marvel went over to form Image. What you had is then you had other guys coming up the ranks, like the Kubert brothers were like the stars. Then you had Romita Jr. and then what they were doing is they were, Joe Mad, they were giving these guys exclusive contracts because they didn't want them to leave. So at least in the short term, they understood those things. But they had already let those guys go. You know what I mean? Like, it already happened. So now all you're trying to do is play catch up. So Marvel did do relatively well in those days, those early days, But, like we were talking, it was inevitable that it was going to sink because they stopped playing nice with the talent. They pulled the exclusives from them. Those guys went other places. Joe Mad went to Image, and they started what was it, Cliffhanger Comics? Like all that stuff still inevitably happened. And I just think like it's got to be both. We have to just get into a place where we could stop going. It's either this or this, and there's no way around it. Life just doesn't work that way. Everything is happening at the same time. There's multiple things happening. And this comics industry, I think specifically, has always had tunnel vision. Like, they're just going to find this one niche, and then they're going to write it like I think you used, like off the cliff, and then as soon as they hit rock bottom, then they're going to find another path. But they never kind of course correct or take other paths while going in that direction. While you're writing that, start veering off and entertain this idea or that idea. And back to what you said, man. It's leadership.
Yeah. Speaking of leadership, since you're the leader of this ship, I'm gonna pass along a question from Jasper Plan 9. He's asking to offer add-ons to the 72-hour cover, and since I've got nothing to do with the campaign construction or anything like that, I got to defer that one over to you.
Yeah, I talked about that at the beginning of the show, and when I get off here, Pamela and I are going to give everybody an update, and we're going to talk about the 72-hour, possibly as an add-on. Well, most likely it will be an add-on, and then the High Octane Adventures as an add-on, or it might be its own tier. So I do have all your comments that have been coming in for the last couple hours, almost a day now, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that I can get everybody kind of customized tiers and add-ons to where you guys can get all the books that you want. So that's going to be a conversation once I get out of here.
Sometimes
I'm still kind of recovering from last
I
night.
bet. I was telling the lady Fulton that she was asking me about if you're going to stream or not. I said I don't know. He ran a marathon last night, and he might be sleeping for the rest of the day. We'll see.
Well,
Speaking of the tiers and all of the options, and you trying to customize things for people, one of the things that I've noticed lately with some
thank you.
campaigns
Yeah,
is that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much, man. So generous. I've already spent over 200 on this campaign. I want the rack for a limited cover. So yeah, I'm gonna write that down too. I said at the beginning, so maybe we can do. How does that work? Like you, if you back a campaign, Joe, or like
Yes, sir.
like a tier, you can still back another tier, right?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Where
So
where it can become a little bit of a problem for backers is if they can't get the combination of things they want between their primary order and then any of the add-ons that are offered, then sometimes what happens is we get stuck in a position where we have to basically make two different orders and pay shipping twice. However, a lot of the creators lately in the last year and a half have been making allowances for that and saying if you just contact them, whether it's through Indiegogo or DM them or whatever, it's by creator. You just got to talk with them, initiate a conversation. We're happy to talk about this with customers. A lot of them will manually on the back end, not with anything with Indiegogo that I know of, but they'll manually, just like Professor Murph with War Party, for example, he would just combine the orders and only charge one shipping rate. So that kind of
with
thing.
the add-ons, you can either not add shipping or just a minimal amount of shipping.
If it's going to bump your weight up into the next shipping pricing bracket,
right,
then yeah, people tend to add just a little bit of a charge, only because they know it's going to cost them more from the shipper.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I completely understand. I was gonna do it regardless, but yeah, it will get done, you guys. So my apologies. It all came together really late yesterday.
And if you don't mind, Art, I'd also like to address another comment from Jasper. He says, I live in Texas. $30 shipping is insane. You guys, the research into the shipping companies is a nonstop thing with creators, which on one hand, I think it's a good thing. I'm happy to say that it's always ongoing and we're always trying to figure out how do we get the cost down. The flip side of that is, and there's just no other way to say this, it's just bad news for all of us, is the shippers have jacked up prices multiple times over the last 2 years, like significantly. And there's been a bunch of creators who have tried to really like work with razor thin margins not to raise their shipping prices.
That's how we have, and we've on the Chrono campaign, we were like eating shipping costs.
I know you were.
Crazy.
Yeah. There's so many times where the creator is paying out of their own pocket just to get the book to, or the order, I should say. A lot of times it's the book plus whatever extras. What they're doing is they're eating the cost to get it to you personally, and they're subsidizing that extra markup to get it to you, whether you're in Texas or New Zealand or wherever. Australia is a killer. Australia and New Zealand are just horrible. Now, here's the kicker. This is like just a kick right in the nuts to us. Is it's so much cheaper to ship from Australia to the U.S. So it cost Mike Bancroft far less to send me my Lucent comps, plus the order that I backed when I originally, found the campaign. I was a backer before I came on board as an editor. So it costs him way less to ship me my order plus my comps than it costs for me to send him the same stuff back to Australia. And we're talking like 2 to 3 times as much. So it really is a systemic problem throughout the globe. And the effort has been here from day one since 2018 to lower shipping prices, because it was recognized right off the bat that that could be an Achilles heel for this whole thing.
Well, I even went back to, I started at Kickstarter, and my big complaint, and it broke my heart, is that I wanted to actually tailor every shipping cost per place. Like, so if it was here, it would be X amount. If it was there, it would be X amount. And there's absolutely no system like that. I always thought, like, okay, if Kickstarter and Indiegogo, they're so great, they're so this, that, and the other thing, they don't have any kind of shipping system worked out. Like,
Right.
every individual has to work these things out. They don't even give you really a price breakdown of how much it'll be or any of those things. So the problem then being is you have to make these general kind of prices. And then so you can kind of absorb a hit here by maybe charging a little bit over here. So then the hopes are that it kind of all balances out at the end. But the consumer, like the individual consumer, they might not understand how that works. And so all they see is that this was X amount of money, but in reality, it shouldn't cost that much to send the book to them. And I completely understand that. Like, if it takes, $8 to send it to wherever, but you were charged 10,
Yep.
that in one way, it doesn't sound fair, but it's the only way it can be done, because unless we were to break every book down or every order down per customer, then we could exactly charge you for shipping. But it would be a nightmare to run. You just couldn't, fulfill a campaign. Like, it would take you a year to fulfill a campaign.
I was just going to say it would realistically take 3 to 5 times as long to fulfill one campaign if the creator or their fulfillment service, whoever, had to sit there and calculate to the penny what the shipping cost was going to be for each individual order. And it becomes really counterproductive once you start scaling up, because that's a problem even at the campaigns with the smallest revenue totals.
Right.
You scale that up to a Graveyard Shift or a Cyberfrog Blood Honey, good luck if you get one book every 2 years. It's one of those harsh realities of the marketplace in which we find ourselves, where we try to do the best we can to be highly creative in getting the best value to customers. And then while we're doing that, a bunch of us are also working on ways to, and this is kind of lifting back the curtain a little bit, giving you guys a peek behind the magic show to see where some of the nuts and bolts are happening. Like, for example, I had in 2019, because I recognized this as a problem in 2018, so I started working on a kind of a secret project on distribution, shipping, sales, and kind of coming up with one comprehensive system that would all take place on a very simple, very streamlined, easy to use, let's just call it an app for lack of a better word at the moment. And I had business meetings all set up and down the West Coast right before the COOF hit. And I was I was in talks with a guy. We had a handshake agreement that if things worked out in kind of the alpha testing phase, that he would come in as a partner. And we talked about having a third partner in this that would possibly come in. And without getting into all the details, let's just say that the first face-to-face meeting that we were trying to schedule, it was either going to be in LA, it was going to be in Seattle, or it was going to be in some other place like San Francisco or some other place that he had in his work schedule planned out because he does a lot of traveling, and I would just fit in wherever he was at, and we
Right.
were going to have a face to face, and then we were going to work some things out, and then start talking about like contracts and whatnot. The Coof killed it, dead. Because I got locked down, he got locked down. We're on opposite ends of the country, opposite corners of the country, basically. And there was nothing we could do because our programmers that he had recruited to do some testing locked down. They had to worry about their own main job. They couldn't worry about this side project that they were recruited into. So, but the good news is, even though everything got killed, not quite dead, the good news is all of the framework is still intact. So I've been having kind of secret, not secret, but just conversations, one-on-one conversations to see how much of that can we pick up and carry over to now, and then how
Right.
much of it has to be rebuilt from scratch. So I'm happy to say that I'm in conversations with programmers, and it's definitely moving forward. I just don't know with the Coof. I can't predict when I would have a beta test version of this thing ready.
Well,
So
when you get it going, yeah, share it with the rest
oh,
of us.
it's going to be made available to everybody who wants to use it for sure.
Cool, cool. Bad Mojo Art. I want Rocafort cover, volume 1, second print. Why can't I get add-ons, dude? I'm gonna work on it. I'm so sorry.
So
Stop
if you weren't
yelling.
here at the beginning of the show, Art was saying as soon as the show's over, he and Pamela are going to go to work on the campaign, and they're going to tune it up based on your guys' feedback.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It will happen. Indeed. I'm thinking I'm just gonna make all the books just available as add-ons. So then people can customize.
Excuse
Their
me.
own things.
Yeah, you know what I've noticed, Art, is that the campaigns that seem to do really well lately, um, one of the things they have in common is on the main page, they keep the options of the tiers to something that's easy to digest. And then the infinity -1 options are all in the add-on page. And so if you know what you want and it's there, you're done, right? You basically just pick and pay.
Right.
But if you don't see it, then the cool thing about the add-ons is that you then go and you're already in the mindset of I'm going to go look for what I want. I'm going to go browse. I'm going to go window shop. And that keeps the main page clean and easy to read, but it still gives you all those options in the add-on
In
feature.
checkout, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I think it was just a matter of time, just to get the campaign up and running.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things going on here behind the scenes.
Don't I know it?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, we're definitely going to be working on that after the show here, you guys. I'm going to go and show off the campaign again because I think there's been some traction. Captain Traction. All right. So this is Black and White Volume 2 Man versus Machine. I am hanging out with Joe Fulton. He is my co-writer, my partner in crime here on this crazy campaign. And in a world where law and order is often blurred to gray, justice can only be bum 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 black and white. So we're not even a day into this yet, and we're this is what we were at the beginning of the live stream. So let me hit refresh. 29,867. We're at 30,300 and wait, 30,323. We have
Okay.
over 359 backers.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so very much. This is crazy cool. So, yeah, I will go into some of the tiers here for you guys. So we have the featured tier, which is the main book. That's this one right here. That's the one that Joe and I are working on, and then we have the second printing version of issue 1 or volume 1. That's the one with the greenish on the left hand side here, and then we have the adventures book, which is the high octane adventure, and that's done by Von Klaus and Pedro Ang. So two great tastes that go good together, and yeah, then we have the main book that you can get. Oh, also, let me see. These come with trading cards. So some of the higher, like the combos here, that's why we did trade cards too, to kind of go, well, you're going to get something special with the bundles, with multiple books, which you wouldn't get as an add-on. But there you go. So then here is volume 2. Here is that volume 1 second printing with the new cover on it. We completely sold out of the original volume 1 with the original cover on it. So yeah, we're going to go back to print with this new cover and print up as many as you guys need.
That's the original.
What's that?
Here's the original.
Oh, wait, hold on.
For anybody who wasn't around for the campaign.
Boom, baby. Wait. Let me solo layout. Boom.
Here we go. So that's the original. And I was just looking on my shelf for my Capullo cover, and I don't remember exactly where it is. I don't want to go pulling all the books out, but yeah.
Yeah, we have limited amounts of the
there it is.
Capullos. Yeah, we have the variant, the Virgin variant, and this was for the Second Chance campaign. These books are gorgeous, you guys. And so then from the original campaign, let me take this out of the plastic here. Capullo cover. So this is with the type and everything. So we have a tier with those as well. Those are the only books I have left. I'm not kidding when I say this. This is the only book I have left. I was so like,
wow,
there's got to be one more, and there wasn't. This is all I have. And Pamela thinks that possibly some of the boxes didn't, when we moved here, they all didn't get here. So possibly a box was lost or destroyed or something like that. So yeah, we didn't. Because I think she's right. I think we had one box of that issue. So we had maybe 50 books that we had left. So we have the only 72-hour book, and you guys have also said that you would like this as an add-on as well. So I think what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to run it by Pamela. That's why I say I think is all these individual books I'm going to put in as add-ons. I can't do the Capullo ones, and I can't do the ash cans because I have to do those in limited tiers because I don't have a lot of books. So I have to keep that limited. So I won't be able to do that as an add-on. But the volume 1 second printing, the main book, and the high octane, definitely I'll do as an add-on. Well, like I said, I have to run it by Pamela. And then the Rockefort cover, and I think that's the 4 books. Yeah, the 4 books in the campaign. So those will be as add-ons. And so then, yeah, the 72-hour, this is exclusive. So it's only going to be available for 72 hours. So I promised you guys exclusives. I think this is a killer exclusive. So for 3 days, you guys can get this a line art variant. And let me see if I have it. I'm an inker by trade, and I think this black and white line art version is fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah, I really like it. I usually don't really fall in love with my own work, but I really think this thing inked up really nice. And my thumb is still like partially damaged, like the tendon or whatever it is in it. So this was a combination of markers and pen and brush. Wow. So I had to kind of limit my time on the Crow Quill just because it was a little hard to grab, like to hold with my thumb being messed up. So I'm kind of getting into these microns and some of these markers now. And so I think the way I'm inking, you can't really tell that it's a marker. Like it still looks like a Crow Quill.
Yeah, well, I mean, all the lines and the blacks and everything look balanced to me. I mean, I couldn't, when I looked at it, I couldn't tell. I just saw a balanced, uniform piece.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so like the hair on the on JC, some of those like where his face is kind of melting off, that's all brush. the eyebrows. Like most of the hair is all kind of brush. A lot of the debris and smoke is all brush, and then like the little details and stuff are all microns, and
Hmm.
then like the bigger stuff and a lot of the hatching is still crow quill.
Mm.
So it's
Okay.
kind of a jam of all those things.
Yeah. When I stumbled across Ethan's um, video back in, well, Christmas 2017, when he was going to Michael's to show you how you could buy all the supplies to be a pro comic book artist for less than $100, I got inspired to start drawing again, and I was trying out the Copic multiliners, or
Yeah.
fine liners, I should say, and I really liked those. Never having used a crow quill or a brush or having any inking experience, I was always just trying to get good at pencils back when I was doing it as a teenager. So that was my first experience trying to ink anything, and I was shocked at how fine but steady a line that those Copic fine liners can do. And I know microns are kind of like the bee's knees among a fairly large number of inkers. So it's interesting how you'll get some people who will only use certain tools, and then almost like out of necessity, like they're at a con or something, and they're down to their last pen, but their buddy has a different one, and so they try it, like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
I think I'll
I
try this
do like
again.
Yeah, I do like those Copic multi-liners. Those pins are really, really good. But what you do sometimes as an artist is because you never want to be without a tool.
Yeah,
So I buy in volume, like I buy in bulk. And so
yeah.
I have so many of those micron pins. I feel like I gotta like use them up
Hmm.
before I start getting new ones. But I think I am gonna try some of those Copic because the ones, if I remember right, the ones I was using, the ink flows a little bit better, I think,
Hmm.
from those pins than the microns.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know that's one thing that EVS talked about, and he didn't like, or if I remember right, chat, correct me if I'm wrong on this one. I think he said he liked the flow better, and there wasn't any clogging that he was having problems with,
yeah,
and cleaning. So he likes them because he can just get the consistent lines for as long as the pen's got ink, and when it's done, he just throws it away.
yeah, yeah. That's pretty much it. And then it's just like all markers. The more they're exposed, they kind of dry out. So
Hmm.
very few times will you actually use up all the ink that's in the pen. It's
Yeah.
mostly just the tip will dry out, and the smaller tips are always the more finicky because it's just a small thing. So once that dries out, then you usually don't have a pen. But I don't know. This is kind of inside baseball stuff, but I'm starting to like just the thicker markers because what I'm finding out is like with the pressure, you can actually kind of get different line weights. So then I don't
Yeah.
have to keep, because that's the thing I hate is like
Hmm.
clicking, inking with this, putting this back on, getting another pin, and then using that and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So that's why I like the crow quills or a brush, because those things I don't have to keep going back and forth. It's all you can do anything with it, and I do like that a lot. So we talked about image. We talked a little bit about the campaign. So just to wrap things up with the campaign, you guys, as far as add-ons, I think the four main books in the campaign are all going to be available as add-ons. I'm pretty sure that's how we're going to work it out, but I do have to run that by Pamela and see if she concurs. And then those will have just just the minimal amount for shipping and handling added to those, and it should be well under, if you had to like try to pick and choose within the tiers, because like you guys are saying, then you're billed for full shipping, that way versus what you really need. And so we'll customize that for you guys, and I would have got to it sooner if I wasn't as worn out. Um, so, do you have any high points of working on Black and White? Do you have any inside baseball stories that you'd like to
I've got all kinds. Would you like one or 10 or 100?
I think people probably want some of the dirt, like Art throws temper tantrums and he has hissy fits, and you know
Oh well,
he
yeah.
only eats green M&Ms.
If they want the gossip on how difficult you are to work with, let's just say that we both have said more than once during the process we're having the time of our lives, and if it were any more fun, it would be illegal. Yeah, that said, the reality is you had two different guys with very different storytelling styles, very different approaches. I'm only in, I'm like 3 years and 2/3 of a fourth year into my career, and Art's got 10 times the career that I've got, and just in terms of years, let alone body of work, notoriety for skill, and all of that stuff. So, but the thing with me was that I had 36 other years of non-comic book storytelling that was backing up my almost 4 years. So what happened when we started working together was we found that we both had styles of storytelling that we really liked in the other. However, we also saw some pretty vast differences. So it was kind of like you've got this one style that Art works with, you got this one style that I work with. We both have had bad experiences with writing partners before. Um, but then Art also has had great experiences with writing partners. I only attempted it one time, and the guy, after putting in endless hours and time and effort, the guy just ghosted me. And at the time, I was like, okay, forget it. I'm not going through this again. But so what we found ourselves is two guys, very different storytelling styles, but also with some very important things in common. So we kind of said, all right, well, let's figure out how we can mesh these two things. It just required a give and take process until we could get there. So there was days where there'd be frustration where Art knew what he wanted to communicate, but I just wasn't getting it. Or I knew what I wanted to communicate, but he wasn't getting it. And so we whenever we noticed that that was happening, we would just kind of step back, take a breath, focus on other stuff that was clicking, and then we'd come back around to the stuff that was kind of, we were hitting a block. And
My
so,
favorite thing is that you could get it down on paper,
mhm,
you were just like, as we were talking, even if they were just throwaway ideas, you
mhm,
were logging these things down as notes,
every
and
word,
then
yeah,
what would happen is these things would just fly back and forth, just lightning fast. And you had that. And for me, like, it's just the recall. It's like, what did we talk about? What did we bring up? And then you could go boom, like a stenographer or whatever, like court.
right,
Yeah. And you could go, well, what you said was this right
yeah,
here. Yeah. And so then we could go back to it, and then we could kind of keep those things, because for me, it's like trying to remember everything.
mhm,
It's like it's like you have it all in your head, but how do you kind of keep track of it? And then also,
right,
what I find, and for a lot of people out there that are trying to create, start making it tangible,
yeah,
start making it physical, even if it's one line
mhm,
of a sentence, even if it's just a name of a character, even if it's just, a costume design or whatever. Start putting things down physical, because that's when it starts becoming real,
yep,
because you can have everything up in your head and you think it works,
yeah,
but the reality is, like, it does not work. There is, like, you could think like you have, oh, you know what, I've had years of working on this story, whatever, I have it all in my head. No, you don't. You have ideas in your head, but trust me, they did not connect together as
mhm,
a coherent story. It does in your head, but it doesn't when you start physically putting things down. So when you start seeing those things, um, you can actually craft it, you can build it, you can manifest it. One of That's like a screenwriter, like I've had roommates that are writers and screenplay writers, and they have those index cards, and so then they
mhm,
paste them all up. And the idea is that you're not obsessed with trying to make a coherent story yet.
right,
You're just putting ideas up, and then what you can do, since they're on cards, is you can move them around. So you can go this part over here. And the great thing about like computers now, because this all predates computers, you guys.
Mhm.
When I when I was hanging out with these guys,
You're using typewriters.
yeah, you couldn't do it, but with a computer you can cut and paste. So
Yeah.
you can actually kind of do those same ideas with the computer as long as you're getting all those ideas down. And so that's what you're great at, and also just embellishing as you're putting it down as well. So it might seem very abstract the way it comes out in the conversation, but then once you write it down, it becomes, you know, more coherent and more of a complete thought. And that is really, really beneficial to moving the process forward in a
Mhm.
tangible way. So that's the thing, is to
Right.
make it real. That's the hardest thing, because I hear people like, "Oh, it's like, oh my gosh," I want to discourage this right away. And please, you guys, if I'm harsh and you're mellow, just know my heart's in the right place. I have people at conventions for years, and they go, "Here's my idea." They can't condense it in
Yep.
like any coherent way. And then they're like, this is an epic story, blah, blah, blah. And they go, well, how many issues do you think it would take? Oh, it would be ongoing forever. And I'm like, ongoing forever? You have to have a story.
Yeah.
You have to have something. You can't just kind of, you know, just keep making up story after story after story. And so then what we have as far as like indie creators, we don't have like, you know, decades of like Spider-Man success, because they can put out a Spider-Man comic tomorrow as long as they're not filling it full of SJW bullshit, and they kind of know what they're going to sell. Like it's a proven commodity, so
Mhm.
they kind of know that, but we don't. So my advice always is to try to make it small, because you can always expand, but that coherent idea, that's the
Mhm.
best. And also, you're not relying on 100 books to tell your story,
Yeah.
which the likelihood of you ever getting 100 books is next to none. Like, look
Yeah.
at the templates. There's very few people that have been able to do this. You know, Spawn is, you know, Todd is been dedicated to that one idea and that one book and everything. So but there's very few of those things that exist in the independent market.
And
Usually they're like mini series or like
yeah.
small bursts, and then, you know, you put out the mini series and then you see how it does, and then if there's still demand, then you put out another mini series, and so on
Yep.
and so forth.
That's
Um,
kind of the that's kind of the template that I'm following with the Outliers, where it's I wanted to do a limited series to introduce the whole thing, and I wanted to try and hit every major element that a reader would need to know to get a really immersive feel that this is a universe that's been around a long time, even though they're just getting introduced to it now. So I wanted to feel lived in, but I also wanted it to be where the reader's getting in at the point where people who used to not have superpowers not that long ago, now they do, and they're trying to figure out what to do with them and how to live with them, and other people are trying to figure out how to live in reaction to that and how to work with them and live with them, but also kind of live around them and have all of these human interactions, this human drama with lots of action and some comedy and everything else. But at the end of the day, I knew that I had to have a beginning, middle, and end to introduce this whole thing. And so my inspiration came from the maxi series of the 80s, whether it was Watchmen or Crisis on Infinite Earths or Squadron Supreme, you know, where you told this big story, but you did it in a way so that every issue had a complete story and then subplot lines that would continue on.
right.
And then the next one you would get in and you would already have, now you've got your second individual story, but now you're continuing on what was built on the first. So that was where the whole idea came from. And it took me about 3 months of thinking about this every day and just jotting down little notes to myself as I went. Like you were saying, little pieces here and there that work great in isolation, but they're not part of a whole yet. They don't fit in anywhere. There's no connective tissue.
Right.
And it was about after 3 months where I finally had this epiphany that allowed me to tie everything together. And then I had a framework that is like, you know, when you're building a
I
house and you're,
love those moments. So those moments
yeah,
when you figure out
it
like,
just
I got
all
these
falls
two
into
things,
place.
Yeah, and you're just like, I can't. How the hell? And it always comes when you're not thinking about it. It never, like when, if you had to sit down and go, I need connecting tissue, I need
Yeah.
this, it's not going to be there,
Yep.
and that's why I like about writing, because it is kind of like you just got to lay back and just kind of let it happen. Unlike like inking or drawing, like that's
Yeah.
more like you really got to be on it. Like writing is, because the ideas don't exist, there's nothing really to run off of, and so you just kind of got to channel the
Yeah.
stuff. You gotta,
And
yeah.
and ironically, there's another little peek behind the curtain for people in the chat that are interested in this stuff. Ironically, what was initially kind of a difficulty for you and I, where you're such an intuitive visual storyteller, and I'm such a methodical, strategic, like lay the bricks down piece by piece type of storyteller. That was where we had to try and figure out how do we meet in the middle and create this third way of working where we both give and take, but the results come out exactly like we hope. And at first, that was a little bit of a difficulty, but once we got really rolling, it was great because anywhere in the point in the story, one of us could say, "Hey, I found a problem," because we're constantly stress testing things and trying to break them. And if we don't break them, then we know it's good. If we
Right.
do
And I
break
always
them,
think, like if you can work with somebody like Joe, and I hope vice versa, it's like the respect that it's the best ideas that rise to the surface.
hmm
It's not my idea, or it's not
exactly.
your idea. It's just the best idea. And I never understood people that get so territorial with and precious with stuff, because the thing is, don't you want the best ideas? Like, why would you not want that? And but it also takes an exceptional person to be able to realize it is the better idea. So
Yeah.
if you're working with two fair-minded people that are connecting on the story, then it's not even, it doesn't even become a pissing contest. You just innately know this is the right way to do it. So there's no fighting. There's no, oh well,
Exactly.
oh, you just nixed three of my ideas, and we're just supposed to do all your ideas, that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you, as soon as you start working with somebody that talks like that, end the relationship. It's not
Yeah.
going to work out.
No.
Anybody out there that's listening right now, if somebody tells you like, we're just doing all your ideas, we're not doing any of mine, just go, okay, see you later.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Well,
and
that.
also, I always thought like I remember hearing the guys from Queen talking about
Mhm.
songwriting, because there's four guys in that band that are all exceptional songwriters. Like, it's without question. Like, every one of those guys have mega hits. The bass player doesn't have a lot of songs, but he wrote My Best Friend, and he wrote all I can think of is another one, Rides the Bus, another one, Bites the Dust, or whatever, which was a huge hit.
So
You
you saying
know,
that Brian May wrote those?
no, that's the bass player. Is his name John Deacon?
Oh yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
people don't
Right.
even know who he is. Like, he's
Yep.
just
Yep.
this guy that's very humble, but
Roger
he had
Deacon or John? Was it Roger or
John
John
Deacon,
Deacon?
Roger. It's something. Roger is the
Okay.
drummer. Yeah,
All right.
and so no, it's Roger Dean. Oh my gosh, yeah. I don't know the names actually, so I'm calling you like no, and then I'm like, I don't know them either. I think it is John Deacon though,
Okay.
and so, but anyways, the point is, what they figured out early is that if one of the guys brings the idea to the team, even though that they're going to embellish, they're going to bring in their own ingredients, that person that has that kernel of the idea gets to take the lead. So it's
Yeah.
his vision.
Yeah.
So then they all will concede to that person. So that
Yep.
person gets to steer the ship. And I thought, like, that's the best way to do it, man. That
hmm
is completely fair. So if you have an idea, these guys all want to make a great song, because they
Yeah.
know that, collectively, this is how it works. You do good, I do good, we all do good, kind of
hmm
thing. So, but they also realize that somebody has to be that guy that says yes or no, because if
Right.
you left it to four individuals, you're never
Yeah.
going to get anything done.
Yeah. And to your point, it started with me kind of saying with you, okay, lay it on me. What do you got so far? This is like our very first story meeting, and you said, okay, I got an idea for a beginning. You didn't say it was the idea. You said, I got an idea for the beginning. I got a couple ideas for the middle. And I think I know how I want the ending to go, where I know a couple things that have to happen. The other things I kind of think I know I want to happen, but those will depend entirely on how we do the rest of it. So those are flexible. And I said, okay, let's start with what you know for sure. And I just listened and asked questions and made sure that I completely understood where you were coming from before I tried to offer anything. Because in this scenario, you were the guy that had the idea to kick us off, so I was just following your lead. And then you made it very clear early on that you wanted me to exercise complete creative freedom and not feel like I had to um, like defer to you in terms of offering ideas or criticizing ideas, offering to break ideas if I didn't think they would work. And there's a couple times in that first month where you really pushed me and you're like, come on, I know you're holding back. I know you got more. Lay it on me. Hit me with it. And it just took a little while because I never worked with somebody with your depth of experience who wanted that. It was anytime I got anywhere close to even talking shop with somebody that had that much experience or that much more than I at whatever point this was, it was always like, yeah, we can talk up to a point, but then you're not really on my level, so away with you type of
I
attitude.
don't care, man, because that stuff that's not fun. Like I
Yeah.
just the blue sky part, is the best, man. It's just like just throwing ideas and just playing with like, okay, we have a little bit of time. Let's go down this path. Let's go down this rabbit hole and see where it leads. And we have had a couple of those days that we're like 2 hours into it, and then we're like, none of that works.
Wrap it. It's done.
we had
Now
a
we have
great
we're like, now we have 1 hour to come up with something really good.
And you know what the best part is? We always freaking do it,
Yeah, we always
man.
pulled it off.
Yeah, we always pull it off because Joe would go like, "I got to get to the kids. I got 1 hour," and then we're like, "Okay, there's no more fucking around." And there's one thing. There's one thing about like, just it's the best thing, and like people, they kind of don't. I think most comic book artists that have been doing this for a while, they all have this ability that when they have to get razor sharp,
Yeah.
they can
Yep.
to get shit done. You know what I
Yep.
mean? There's no more effing around.
Yep.
Like they can kind of play around, do a lot of sketches, do a lot of ideas and stuff like that. But then when it has to get done, they can
When they
get
can shift into hyper focus gear, and then just like when you were running Hack Shack at its busiest, when you had all these employees, and I know because we've had the conversations, and I've there have been a couple of guys who have popped up now and then who worked for you or who were coached up by you, and they confirm it, that you basically want to give people as much freedom as the job will allow, whatever that job is. And then there's just undeniable that there's times where you have crunch time, and in crunch time, whatever you can come up with, that's what you're working with. Those are the tools you have,
right.
and you have to hit that deadline. You have to land that plane on time, on target, and not break any of the landing gear. And so that's where you really find out who can really suck it up and do it. And when you see it happen, it's such a great thing. I mean, it's almost hard to describe. It's like a combination of relief and fun and excitement and okay, now let's get on to the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah, or take a nap.
Or take a nap.
Yeah. This is great stuff. But I wanted to like Pedro Eng. He worked with Von Klaus. It was a kernel of an idea that I threw to Von, and that guy just freaking he gave me one draft, and this was the blue sky stuff, man, and it was like it was great, but it just wasn't action enough. So then I just said, that's the hardest part is like going to somebody and going, this is a really killer idea, but I think for this book, it has to be this. And you know what? No problem. Boom. Freaking nailed it. Shipped that thing off to Pedro. Pedro's a machine. And that's kind of what I need because there's so many things going. I need people
Yeah.
that are able to do things without me sitting on them. And
Hmm.
so Pedro's just like, how about this, boss? How about this? And he just keeps giving me pages and he goes, I know that you still need input and stuff and things like that, but I'm just excited and I want to get this stuff done. And
Yeah.
so he just boom, boom, boom. And the best thing is when I sit down, it's not going to be just 2 pages I'm going to
Yep.
be able to go over. It'll probably be the entire book. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And then I can just kind of make my notes and then send it all back to him, when I get time. But Pedro, I just want to let you know if you want to come on this show, just let me know in the chat and I'll get you on the show and we could do just like a killer, Joe Von Klaus, Joe Thunderbuns Von Klaus and Pedro Eng, black and white jam. And we'll just talk about, black and white and anything else that comes up. I think
It'd be
it'll be a
great.
blast. Yeah.
There
So,
was a question, Art, before you wrap it up. There was a question I wanted to pass along to you.
okay.
Marigo Ann, she's been around for quite a while, and I've had a lot of good conversations with her. And she's asking a question that is all. I mean, you've gotten this a million times, and it's hard to answer. So I kind of narrowed it down for you. It's the old: how many pages can you draw, pencil or ink, in a day, or how many panels or whatever. So I said, it really varies on the project. So just for Black and White 2, she would like to know, do you have like an average output in a half a day or a day when it comes to number of panels or number of pages?
Well, it really there's so many variables because there's what you can do when there's time and
Mm-hmm.
there's what you can do when there's no time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of that. So that's what we were talking about, being able to focus in. So if you have 8 hours to do a page, then you take 8 hours. That's how most freelancers are. If you give a
Yeah.
freelancer 2 days, that's how long he's going to take. So the main thing is to try to discipline yourself into some way that's realistic, that you can get things done. So usually the way the industry would work is like you have a month to do 22 pages. So within that 22 page or that 30-day, the month or however many days are in the month, you have to do 22 pages. So usually if you do a page a day with maybe one day off every week, you're going to make the schedule. So as far as black and white is concerned, for me, it's one, I've been doing this for a long, long time. I think on Ethan's stream we talked about this last night, and I think like somebody brought up like monthly schedules, like you're never going to keep monthly schedules, and we all like laughed and we're like, that's not what we're doing.
Yeah, we're not even trying.
We're not.
We
We're
don't
not.
want to.
Yeah, yeah. That's what everybody's saying. Like
We
that
don't want to.
because like I think everybody on that panel last night had been doing it for a while, and
Yeah.
the one thing that I really do like, that's why this is a haven as well, is because that is a lot of pressure. I almost
Mm-hmm.
have 3 decades with that kind of pressure. Like I don't even think my wife fully understands like what it
Mm-hmm.
entails. And I used to just refer to like myself as just a robot.
Yep.
Like you just get into this, like you're not a human being anymore. You kind of have to cut off life, friends, hanging out. You have to kind of do this, and it really is just about like keeping your head down and focus on 11 by 17 space. That's like your entire world is just that space, and
Yeah.
that's what you're doing. So it's hard to answer. Like if you would ask me this question when I was working at Marvel and DC,
Mm-hmm.
I would answer it differently. If you asked me this question when I was doing one book, the answer would be different. If
Yep.
you asked me this question when I was doing six books a month, it would be a different answer. So right now it's like whatever I have to do to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more of a I don't want to say relaxed schedule, but it's more of like an indulged schedule.
That,
Where like when we were writing, like if we were working
yeah.
at Marvel and DC, all that stuff, the fun stuff we were talking about,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be there.
Nope.
You know what I mean? It's like here's 22 pages, we got to get this done today.
They
22
would.
pages.
Yeah. They would not have given us the. They would not have pushed out the constraints far enough for us to tell the story. It's
Right.
only because we're doing it independently, and only because you wanted to take as much time as was needed to break down the entire story and then flesh it out enough to where we're both totally comfortable that when you pick up your pencil and your pens and your brushes and everything, there are no questions. Absolutely everything has been figured out. And then the only thing that you have to think about really is, okay, based on these layouts that we've both agreed upon already, and we know they work, and we know those are built on the writing that we did, and we were, for this might interest people, we were writing for some period of time, and then it got to a point where Art says, "Oh, all right, I'm jumping in and doing layouts while we write." And so he was kind of working behind me as I was kind of taking all the notes down from our story meetings and then crafting it into an outline form that I could show him, and he would say, "Yeah, this is all good except this one thing. We never quite resolved that, did we?" And I said, "No, we didn't. We just had to put a pin in it and move on. So we do have to figure that out." And he's like, "Okay, in our next meeting, we're going to figure that out." I'm like,
Remember,
"Cool."
there was one pin that was put in a plot line from the very beginning,
Yep.
and then that's why you have to trust like the process, especially
Mhm.
if you have a good working partner,
Yeah.
which is you. And so we were like, it was it's the conclusion of the story. I don't want to give too much away. And then we were just like, oh my gosh, we never dealt with the Phoenix World Alliance.
Right.
What the hell? And so then we went, boom, one idea led to another, and then it's there. So the thing is, and oh my gosh, this is the brilliance of it. This is an epic story, right? And so the hardest thing is, like when you have these really big stories, is you can lose track of like your more character driven story. Like it becomes like so big. So one of the hardest
Yeah.
things is not to lose track of that personal story of like black and white of Whitney and Reed. And so then we were like, well, if we introduce the Phoenix World, because that's big scale stuff, then this is going to derail this intimate story we told. And then, like I said, one idea came, and then the next, and the next, and we
Yeah.
figured it out. And holy shit, dude! Like when you read this thing, you're not even gonna know. You're not even
Yeah.
gonna know like all the ways this train could have come off the rails and
Yep.
probably did it. No, it never really
It
did
never really
because we
did.
didn't even deal with it. We just got
Yeah.
to put a pin in it.
We put a pin in it when we kept moving. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Because
just kept moving forward.
it
And
was one of those things where we had achieved a level of trust very early on that made us both very comfortable with saying, okay, we can put a pin in it, come back later, and trust that we will figure it out, and then we
yeah.
just move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I'm going to read this. I think this is Rob. Is this your best work, Art, or do you think your early cave wall art was better? There's some really good wall art that I've done in the day, and I'm very, very proud of it. The problem is, until an archaeologist finds it, no one's ever going to know, because that stuff's not very portable. I wasn't able to, just take my cave wall piece and then just travel with it. It just didn't happen. So I do think this is the best work of my career. It's definitely more portable. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming in, Joe, and hanging out. This is a blast, and I would like to just, if you want to keep doing this throughout the campaign, I think it would. I
Yeah.
think people would like to hear this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have stories for years that we could tell about how it all came together, and then the process. And with your okay, I'd be comfortable talking about certain things that maybe we thought were good in isolation, but we realized wouldn't work. And so that's the kind of thing where if you can think about things that you're comfortable talking about because they're not tied into what we actually did, I think it
Yeah.
would be fun for people if they hear that kind of stuff. And then when they read the book, they're like, how are they going to do that?
How's that going to work? Yeah, we could do
Or,
that. That'd
or
be
they could
fun.
say, well, that would have been cool. And you could have stuck it in here. And then we could talk about it. And we could just talk
Yeah.
storytelling.
Yeah, I love storytelling. I mean, it's a passion, and I'm starting to think of myself as less of like, oh, you're an inker, oh, you're a penciler, oh, you're a writer. It's just like
Storyteller.
it's just a storyteller, man.
Hmm.
I think it's just however you have to get that across. You can do that with chicken scratches. You can do that with full rendering. You can do that with painted, art. There's so many different ways you can do that, but it's storytelling, and that's one thing. Just this is going to be my parting shot. It's like Marvel and DC. Some people go, "Why didn't you pencil more? Why didn't you pencil more?" And I think it was just because the assembly line process never it was never attractive to me. I always got too invested in story. So if I would get a story, I would always see how I could maybe embellish it or do it differently or whatever. And so then, you would want to have conversations with the writer or the editor and kind of like, what about this? What about that? And then you just realize that, and I realized very, very quickly, no one wants that. They don't want that. Editors don't want you to say those things. Writers don't want you to say those things. They really just want you to draw what's there.
Partly because of the stories you've told me about actual work experience where that happened, and partly because of stories I know from other pros. When I assembled the production team for the Outliers, I made sure I told every single one of them, this isn't like boss employee. This is peer-to-peer co-collaborators, and I'm going to ask you to come. I'm going to tell you what I need as a publisher. I'm then going to ask you to bring what you have, all of your creative abilities to the table and add to it. And then as the editor, I'm going to say, okay, here's what we can use. Here's what we can't, unless you can convince me otherwise. And then I encourage them to do that. And there's been several times where Russ and I, I would have him, I'd have an outline for him, and we're working Marvel method. We're just going back and forth. I'd have an outline, he starts drawing, and then we fine tune it as we go, much like you and I work. And he'll say, I know you had this, but I laid it out this way. What do you think? I said, I think it's better the way you did it. Thank you. And then another time where he'll say, yeah, you've got this, but I'm not sure. And I say, okay, well, because you don't know what's coming down the line, I'm going to let you in on it has to be this way because, okay, now it makes sense. Because now he knows I'm planting seeds that are going to grow as the volumes continue, so that when a reader comes back, they'll see it was planted right there from the very beginning.
So Joe never goes, hey, listen, man, it's not for you to question what I just wrote, you son of a bitch.
No. no,
listen, never question anything. I mean, the thing is, like, why be where we're at right now if we can't do these things?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I wanted to do just work for hire stuff again and then just be completely detached from the process and just become, like I said, a robot or the machine, I could go back into that mode. But it's not as much fun. It's a lot more fun to be where we're at right now and just go, you know what? Black and white. What can we do? What are the potentials? I mean, the thing is, Joe and I are also now just starting to go, what's next?
Well, yeah, we've had a couple of inklings of ideas based on what you have had. You've been holding in your back pocket from the original series where you've said, I'd really like to go explore this. And then that instantly sparked ideas in me based on the work we've done in Volume 2, the work you and Taylor did and Pamela did in Volume 1. So now you've got this whole body of work. And when the readers see that Volume 2, even though it's just a 2-part story, I say just advisedly, with a little twinkle in my eye, because what Art told me when we first started working together is, okay, Taylor and I, we remastered this thing with help from Pamela, and we made it this big. He's like, number 2 needs to be this big.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay.
Did it. We freaking did it. We added like 20 pages to it, but we did.
I said, Art, do you realize what you're asking for is that you want to take what's effectively the second half of a 2-part story, and you want to blow it up all this way, but then you want to bring it down to wrap it all up in this issue, but then also Volume 1. And you got to bring all that together at the end. And it's not a trilogy, it's a 2-parter. Are you sure this is what you want to do? And you're like,
well, it's kind of a trilogy because the first issue was 2 issues. So Volume 1 is really the first 2 parts.
That's a good point. Point.
And so it is kind of like a beginning middle in Volume 1, and then Volume 2 is the 3rd act. But it's an epic third act. And there's one thing that you and I did that we didn't see coming going into it, is we really fleshed out this villain. Like
Yes.
Jake Chang,
Yeah.
JC is a fully realized psycho. Yeah.
Far more complex than we would have expected when we started.
Yeah, and I'm really really happy with that. God, I can't wait to be able to get this book out to people and show this stuff off. And just I'm so glad that you were the person that you were and said, Art, let's hang out. Like it was. This is all you. This is me.
It's all part of the master plan. Take over the comic book world.
Do the evil maniacal beard rub. Well, I'm going to go over the campaign one last time, and just let you guys know. Also, after this, the wife and I are going to get some add-ons in here. All right, so we're still not even a day into this yet. This is monumental, 30K, 30,323 to be exact. 359 backers. This is the finale to the Black and White origin story. So this is Black and White Volume 2, Man versus Machine. So this is kind of the origin of the team. This is Whitney Song and Reed Blackett, how they meet, how they step up, how they become Black and White, and hopefully how they defeat evil. I'm not saying they do defeat evil. I'm just saying, we're going to see how they do it.
It's a tall order.
Yeah, it is a tall order. So we blew past that 8,000 fixed goal like in the first hour. So that was incredible.
Was that the one where I get a $10,000 bonus?
You know what? We should add a stretch goal. Yeah.
That $8,000 Joe gets a 10 grand bonus.
Definitely. Don't worry, Joe. If this thing is a huge success, you'll be taken care of one way or another.
Is that freelancer math or what? At 8 grand, you get your 10 grand bonus.
We both know that eight grand is nothing with producing.
It doesn't go very far.
It doesn't go very far. That's for sure. They're back and better than ever. Yeah. So this is Stefani Renee, man. That's another thing. This color came in at like the 11th hour yesterday. So
that was cool to see.
Yeah, and there's still a Red Gaze video that we put together as well that I got to post up. So we have a new video coming your way as well. So and he's got Sunsworn, so you guys go check out Sunsworn. It's brilliant. It's fantastic looking. So here's the Kenneth Rocafort Volume 2 variant cover, and then here's the Pedro Ang Klaus von Klaus High Octane. So this is more of an animated style. I'm gonna bust out. Pedro did some animation with Black, kind of running with his guns. And his guns out. It looks freaking incredible. And Pedro is killing it on this book. So the only thing we could call it is High Octane, man. That's the only title that Pamela and I could come up with. So it so fits the style, and it so fits the story that von Klaus came up with.
I love that this animation style that is in this book, and you and I have talked about possible animation plans for the franchise, and I haven't had a chance to tell you because I've been out for a couple of months, but the stuff that we started working on in that realm, I've still got it, and I looked over it. I think you're gonna like it. So when we get a chance, we should talk about that as well as the stuff that we're doing for Volume 2.
Cool. And just as like a teaser, that's why I want to get Pedro on, and we'll just do a jam, Joe and Vaughn and Pedro and myself. And I had an animation, I had a partnership with an animation company, and for Black and White, and I think they figured it out that I was Comicsgate and that I'm a Nazi. I'm not a Nazi, by the way, but and I'm a homophobe and whatever Istanphobe labels they like to throw at us. And so I think I was a little too hot to handle. So he was very diplomatic the way he bailed out, but that didn't happen. But like Pedro and I, because I brought Pedro to the table. I introduced him to this guy, and well, I didn't introduce him, but I didn't say, "Hey, Pedro, here's this guy," But
Right.
I introduced his artwork to him,
Yeah.
and he was really taken aback by it. So I believe, Pedro, I never said this to you face to face. That's why I want to get you on the show, and then we'll talk about all this stuff. Is you would have most likely been involved with the animation. You probably would have been style guide, because that guy was really taken aback. And also, he had his own pet project, and he was like, "Would he be interested in this?"
There's
And I'm like,
always a pet project with these guys.
I'll
Always.
tell you, I hate when people do that. It's like, listen, man, let's make black and white a reality.
Yeah.
And Pedro, I don't like to go like, oh, Pedro's mine. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of get weirdly territorial, but
Yeah.
you're kind of like, let's do this first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I'm sure Pedro would love to work on your project, but this is what's in front of us right now. Let's make this happen, and then we'll do that. Those Hollywood guys, I think it's a survival thing. They have so many projects going on at one time because they know this one, if it doesn't stick, they have to go to this next, and so on and so forth. And
they
usually
cannibalize each other.
Yeah, and I hate that process.
Yeah,
To
I
be
do too.
honest, I really hate that process. I don't even creatively, I don't like to be in that environment because just for what we just talked about, where they're like, "Hey, you think Pedro would want to work on this?" And, I mean, most of the time my answer is like, well, ask him, because I don't want to. I hate when people speak for me, like, "Oh, well, Art's really busy." Like, I don't like that either. But at the same time, I never say it to anybody, but I secretly think, like, you're kind of being a douchebag here.
Yeah.
So here are the. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just the last thing I'll say, just to kind of put a bow on that, is Pedro made a couple of comments. He when you were talking about he might have, or probably would have been involved in the style guide and maybe some art direction. He was saying, "Oh, my loins," and then he was saying, "I've trained animators down here, Art, FYI." And that, I'll just say, I'm not going to commit Art to anything, but I'll say this, Pedro, I've been having conversations with animators and animation directors because Outlier Comics has. Let's just say there's a very
Wait
good
a minute,
chance.
Joe. You're doing what that guy did.
No.
Are you wooing?
I'm tying
are you wooing Pedro away
No.
from me?
No. I'm tying it all back to you, big boy. So what you don't know, Art, is because when I got sick, I was having these conversations with animators and animation directors, and I wanted to figure out how to put together a virtual animation studio that you would have, like, you could take your stuff to them and say, here's what I want to do. What would it cost? How long would it take? And they could basically just give you a framework, and then you could work with that however you want. You could work within that. You could take it somewhere else. You could go to Hollywood. You can do whatever you want. But what I want to do with Outliers is basically put some of that connective tissue in place where people who know how to do all this stuff, but they don't have the connections. I want to be able to make introductions and then say, hey, if we can set this up right, everybody wins. Here's my idea. What do you guys think? And then it's the kind of thing where we would almost have like a CG or a couple of CG.
I just want to interject. I think Danger Vanessa sees what you're doing here, and she doesn't like it.
No,
I'm to the thunder side.
First of all, she's very perceptive. But second of all, your stuff is so far down the road from mine that what I was about to say to Pedro is that my conversations got sidelined just due to the coof. But over the next few weeks, I'm going to start these conversations up again. So settle your loins, Pedro. Put an ice pack on them. Bring them back down to room temp. And then we'll heat them up again a little bit later when you and I and Art can talk. And I can tell Art what I have kind of put in place so far. And if he wants to take the ball and run with it, then it's his.
Well, one of the things I've said on these live streams is that I think this is inevitable. I think Pedro said that he was going to put some kind of Atomatic together. to
Hmm.
possibly help move the High Octane book. So I'm
Yeah.
still looking
Cool.
forward to seeing that. And yeah, I mean, I think putting short animation together, even doing crowdfund, for like I don't know, a half hour, adventure or something like that. 20. What are like animation like shows are usually 20, is it 22 minutes? I don't remember
22.
how
Yeah,
with like
22.
with commercials and stuff like that. So, you put like 22, 25 minutes of animation together, you fund it, and then, you create it kind of like the stuff we're doing with the comic books, and then, see if you can move things in other directions. So if you're going to, work as kind of a mediator, I think that's great.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the kind of thing where I've been doing it kind of invisibly almost since the day I showed up in CG, is just trying to help kind of make introductions. If I see five different people who are all doing these things that together, they could form Voltron, and then the whole would be greater than the sum of the parts, then I just do that because I know that it benefits CG. And if it benefits CG, it's going to benefit me, of course, but everyone else. And we're all trying to grow this thing together. So I'm just at a point now where I can come out and do it openly because of all the work that I did in the past 3.5 years. Some of that is finally starting to pay
Well,
off.
just to interject here, it's going to take somebody like you, Joe, to make this happen. And the reason I say this is like a lot of these Comic Gates projects are like writer, artist, inker, like we're wearing so many hats like one person is,
Yeah.
that to expand. That's why I'm amazed that Ethan Van Sciver is able to do what he's doing right now, because there's so many moving parts. I know he's got Andrea, he's got his wife and stuff like that, and that does help, trust me. But
Yep.
to expand and to build, you need this stuff, not just an infrastructure, but you need somebody that you trust that can oversee this stuff and make it happen. And so I think writers, and this, when I say these things, I don't mean it in any kind of derogatory way.
Sure.
They usually have more time to do these other things than like an artist does,
Yep.
because the time commitment is different than it is to to write than to draw. And um and so I think it's going to take somebody like yourself.
Well,
Not
it's
that you have a bunch of downtime, that's
no,
not what I'm saying,
I
but
don't.
that
But
you have one, you want to do it, you have
yeah,
the drive, and you have time. So you're in a better position than a lot to make
right.
these things happen. And you see the opportunity that's
Yes.
there. That's the thing. You see it.
Yeah. It's a lot of it comes from the fact that I had three careers before breaking into comics, specifically with CG, and all of them were careers where I chose when to go in. I did. I was successful, and by some measures, I was very successful when I was in corporate business. That was one of the careers. Um, but what I've been able to do, thankfully, through the coaching of some fantastic people who have taught me a lot, and just being able to apply skills and education and experience from other parts of my life over into what we're doing here, and then specifically for my own business with Outlier Comics. It's one of those things where, because of all of the business experience I had from small businesses, blue collar, all the way up to a Fortune 100 R&D high tech company that was on 6 continents and was valued in the tens of billions, I can bring all of that stuff over to here in an environment where there's a lot of business experience that's needed to help people maximize what they can do. But my take on it is that there's not a whole lot of us who have that sort of experience. So what we need to do, in my opinion, is replicate ourselves. Yes, Rob, if you're still there, I did say replicate. I know that'll give you a giggle. Um, what we need to do is to find people who want to do this stuff and who want to get into the nuts and bolts of the business. They just don't know how. And so one of the things that I've done is, just through having good relationships with people and being nice and doing little favors without wanting anything in return, is I've just shown people that it's not that difficult to build out a human resource network where essentially anything you need, You can just say, hey, I'm looking for this. And someone in there is going to voluntarily come in and say, I can help. And so that's how I think we have to get this stuff done. If we're going to build systems that benefit everybody, then we need that sort of human resource network action going where I can say, all right, we've all agreed, those of us who are working on this project, we've all agreed that this is what has to be done. Here's what I know I can take care of personally because I have the experience and I've done it before, but I just don't have the time to do this other stuff. So who can take on this other stuff? And then people just start volunteering. And it's just a question of making sure that we're all on the same page. And before you know it, the project is done.
Right, right. And it's always like there's two separate people, and it's usually that third person that knows one or the other or knows both that gets the two parts together. And I've read enough success books about stuff like that. It's usually never a direct route.
Yeah,
It's usually there's a third party that knows the two,
exactly.
that connects the two together, and that's how things get done.
Yeah.
Another person that's doing stuff like that, and I've had conversation with him, and he's in the chat right now, is Adam Post.
Mm-hmm.
So Adam Post sees this as well, and he's a big behind the scenes guy
Yep.
with like maybe this printer, this thing. He sees some of the shipping stuff, and he's been
Mm-hmm.
looking into those things and how maybe we can make these campaigns more efficient, maybe bring down the shipping costs, things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of this stuff. And this is just the tip of the iceberg creatively of what we're going to be able to do. And more people are coming in, more and more points of view.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the big thing is just what we're doing right now is just talking about this stuff,
Yeah.
not that comics isn't cool. If this is all there ever was, just
It'd be fun.
yeah, that's great with me.
Yeah.
But if you have somebody like Pedro Eng, that can do animation and is willing, why wouldn't you
And
do it?
if you've got somebody who has decades of experience in assembling teams, leading teams, but then also kind of coaching them up, because that's how I was taught, is how to assemble a team, put them together, show them how well we can all work together, and then kind of coach them up to all go assemble and lead their own teams. You can start getting a few people doing that. Before you know it, you've got this doubling effect and then cubing effect. And then that's to me, that's when people like, well, for example, one of my good friends, Marine Corps veteran, and I got another friend who's another branch of the service. I'm not going to get into details because they don't really like it discussed. But anyway, we're having a conversation, and I said, I was talking about one of my little secret projects to help CG, and I said, okay, the three of us all know that when you're talking warfare, it's the soldiers on the ground or in the water or whatever, the frontline warriors who win battles, but it's the logistics and support people who win wars. Because when you talk about winning wars, and you've got like these massive forces, and they're defeated by these smaller forces, you look through history, you disrupt their food lines, you disrupt their water, you disrupt their their communication lines. If you can kill their support and logistics, you just won the war. And so on the flip side of that, you can say, okay, well, if you want to take this body of people, CG, and you want to grow it into something that's way bigger and more successful and more secure to attack or rot from the inside, you know, then if you figure out who your support and logistics people are, and then you kind of put them together and you let them form their own teams and form their own Voltrons here, 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 and here. Well, now you've got like the big dogs like Ethan and John, yourself, Shane, Frega, whoever, who are in there fighting battles and really making a big splash. And then you've got a bunch of support and logistics people who are all helping support. And by the way, customers are both. Customers are the big dogs who are making these big campaign numbers happen. And they're also the support and logistics people who are helping everything kind of stay together.
What's funny
So,
about this? This is kind of what we were talking about, like with Marvel and DC. Just a way of making a more successful publishing company,
yeah.
and now we're being more hands on with without the corporate entity of Marvel DC
Mm-hmm.
to have to like get their okay or whatever.
Exactly.
We can just do it.
Yep.
No bureaucracy, no bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
and just get on with it. Because all it takes is two people to agree.
Yeah.
That's why Comicsgate is killer. It
Yeah.
just takes two people to agree and then make things happen. Are there going to be people that fuck each other over? Of
Of
course.
course.
Is there going to be stuff that crashes and burns? Of
Mm-hmm.
course. I mean, nobody's immune to this stuff,
Mm-mm.
but for the most part, I think, I think we had some early turmoil. I think it's been identified.
Mm-hmm.
It's been kind of put to rest, and I do believe that there is stability in what we're doing now. There's actually, I remember having talks with Mitch Brotweiser early on. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, this business model can't sustain, and then I was just like, yeah, but what is the alternative? And so his alternative was what he did, with trying to bring comics to, the mainstream. And I think that that is very noble, but also I think that it's still like somebody thinking like, oh, we got to save the comic industry, or we can make this happen. And I just think like that's done.
Yep.
That is completely done. I think it's
Yep.
honorable, and God bless him, man. I want him to succeed. I
Mm-hmm.
really do. But like I said, I work intuitively, and I couldn't articulate it at that moment
Yeah.
in time. But I was just like, I don't think that's the right way to go. I think for right or wrong, I'm going to stay here and see. We're either it's one of those things. It's either like we're going to just freaking be huge, or we're just going to crash and burn. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's really no middle ground. Like it's all or nothing kind of venture. And for some reason, I kind of dig that right now.
Well,
Uh,
it is, I think, essentially like that. And I think a lot of people in the beginning made the mistake because they haven't been through this before. I was in the heart of like I said, it was a Fortune 100 company. It went from being one of the darlings of every stock exchange on earth in the 90s to when I got out and I'll say mid to late 2000s. I'll just keep it vague. Um, when I got out, I could see it was on a downhill slide. And just recently, I talked to somebody who started working there before I did in the 90s when they were just a baby company. They were just a startup. That's when this person started working there. And last I checked, last year they were still there and just barely hanging on by their fingernails. And everything that I thought was happening that was terrible, it only got worse. And it all came down to leadership and the support and logistics people not being respected, not being elevated or encouraged, and they just try to pay all the attention to the superstars, except these leaders who came in to take over, they're like the next generation of leadership when the founders all retired. They didn't know what they were doing, and so I basically watched them run the entire thing into the ground, and I got out before it crashed, and then now it's just a shell of its former self. So I have the advantage, if you want to call it that, of watching this stuff happen at scale, much bigger scale than Comicsgate. But the thing is, humans are humans, and our limits are our limits. Our virtues and our vices are the same no matter where we exhibit them. So, having been through this with small businesses and big businesses and a giant corporation, and being able to walk in and walk out on my own terms and make a whole lot of money while I was in there, it just taught me a lot about how to look for this stuff. Information is out there, but you have to be able to detect it, and then you have to be able to analyze it, and then you have to be able to see the patterns and the cycles and everything to say, okay, I've seen this story before. I know what's going to happen. So let's just nip this in the bud, and then it's done, and we build up something better, and then everybody's happy. So that's kind of how I view it, I guess.
Yeah, and it will all happen. I sincerely think like this is just the start. This is really just the start. Ethan is busting all kinds of barriers and walls and doors and fucking
Mhm.
everything, man. And that's the good thing. Like he wouldn't say that he's a leader, but there are like examples, and all the examples in Comicsgate are almost in lockstep. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you were talking about like leadership, And
Yeah.
like I said, none of us would ever be comfortable with that. But there is this real commonality with everybody on every level. Like you hear them talking almost the same talking points.
Yep.
And that is freaking insane if you think about it. Like you have all these people that are in lockstep, and it's not a fucking cult, you guys. It's not.
No matter what Ethan
Kool-Aid.
says.
Yeah, there's no Kool-Aid. There's no jogging suits. There's none of that shit. Heaven's Gate. Yeah. I mean, it's just agreement, like, because everybody sees that there is truth in it, and they all see that it's viable. I mean, Joe's got a business background. Adam Post has a business background,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys see it. You see there's merit in it, and it's not like you're just going, I'm gonna get in and get a quick buck. You listen to Joe talk. Joe's talking about like his Outlier Comics, like living with beyond him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Joe's got plans like when Joe's dead and gone.
When I planted my flag, when I basically surveyed the landscape of the culture war, and my commanding officer said, "All right, you've got autonomous authority. Go find a battlefront, plant your flag, secure it, defend it, and then help build it up." For a lot of reasons I won't get into here for interest of time, I surveyed the landscape. I selected Comicsgate, and I came in and I planted my flag. The only thing is I did it underground where nobody saw what I was doing, because I knew there'd have to be a whole bunch of work done ahead of time to earn credibility with people, to have any sort of, if I say something, why should anybody listen to anything I say? Why shouldn't they just like, who are you? What are you doing here? So I knew I had to spend a lot of time doing a lot of work, just earning credibility and earning trust. And then if I have a body of work that people can look at who've never met me before, they might say like, oh, well, this guy kind of seems like he knows what he's doing. Maybe I will consider what he has to say about this particular issue where he's got, decades of experience with. So that was my whole approach. But my point is that when I planted that flag, it was with a silent commitment to myself, a minimum 30 years of storytelling in comics, specifically with CG, whatever that would turn into, wherever it would go. I was like, I'm home. These are my peoples. So this is where it's going to happen. So 30 years. So I'm now a little bit of ways from finishing out my 4th year, which means I got a minimum another 26 to go. And that's it. I don't want any more careers. I'm content to just have this be the last one. I think 4 is enough. I'm not yet 50. I'm not yet 50, and this is my 4th one. I'd like it to be my last.
Yeah. I hear you, man. I said, I think on Ethan's channel the other night, I was like, I'm going to retire here, man. This is it. Like, I really don't have any interest in doing much of anything. I'll be 60 this year. So, I think this is going to be it, man. It's a great place to be, because you know what? A lot of people my age, I think, we talked about Jerry Ordway on the Pontificators, and, and I think they're scared. They don't.
Oh,
they
very
know
much
that
so.
they don't have much, but they don't. They also don't have the faith, and they don't have that leap of faith that it takes to do this stuff either. So they're kind of like in this weird holding pattern. And so I don't know what Jerry, I don't know what people like that are going to do, but I just know that after almost 40 years, I'm really excited about what I'm doing. I want to do it until I can't do it anymore, and I want it to be here. I don't want it to be at Marvel or DC. And I always want to say, I have nothing against those guys at all. I mean, I made a good living. They did me right, but I didn't let them fuck me either. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like there are some guys that were not. I mean, you guys can already tell. Like I can seem like a nice guy, but I'm not just gonna lay down for people either. I know what I'm worth, and I'm willing to fight for it. So,
one of the things that I was so happy about when you asked me if I would co-write the book with you is I already knew from just observing you and hanging out and being one of the people in the early days of your channel. Sometimes there would just be me and a couple others, and my schedule was such that I could hang out with you and Taylor and Pamela when she would come in and just chat with you guys, and we kind of got to know each other. And then when we met in person and became friends very quickly from that point forward, and just the friendship just got deeper and deeper. It was one of those things where I was like, people, I don't know how many in Comics 8 who've been around long enough understand what a steel spine and set of brass clankers it took for you to walk away from DC voluntarily when you were doing great work, highly acclaimed, customers loved it, and nobody was pushing you out, but you had looked around long enough and you'd seen what was going on over in CG, and you're like, okay, those guys, they got a little punk rock in them. I got a little punk rock in me. There ain't a lot of punk rock going on over here, and I don't like the direction that this thing has been going for the last several years. So I'm just going to pick up while I still have a good time that I can make my exit, and I'm going to mosey on over to where the punk rock is happening.
Right, and you just always think like you've seen the way the industry treats people that are older,
Yeah.
and it's they just chew them up, spit them out, and then go on to the next. So it's not going to happen with me, and I'm glad. I mean, it wouldn't have happened at Marvel or DC. I've always stayed relevant, and I would have reinvented myself for the next 10 years. But why do that there? I'll do it here. So I am going to wrap this up, man. It's always cool talking to you, Joe. Like, we could do this freaking for hours, man.
Yeah, we've done it for hours.
Yeah, we have. The chat is great. The chat is great. Thank you guys so much. I am going to just go back to the campaign one last time for the stream and see what we got. So this is what we've been talking about, man. With passion, with love, is Black and White Volume 2, Man versus Machine. This is the story that Joe Fulton and I came up with. This is the story that I'm going to draw, and this is the book that we're going to make for you guys. So we're at 30,323. 359 backers, and we still haven't done our first 24 hours yet. So, oh no, we have. This is we actually finished today. It's 6:13. I think we launched at 6 yesterday. So let me hit refresh.
That sounds right.
Oh shit, we got a couple backers. Yeah, thank you
right
guys.
on. Thank you, backers. You guys are great.
Yeah, freaking awesome. Yeah, and just as my parting shot is going to be, you guys, we will do those add-ons. Pamela and I will do those add-ons. I'll do a live stream, or I'll do a Twitter update, so you guys will know that they're there. I am going to put an update in the on the campaign here, the campaign page, so you'll have that information there as well. So thank you guys, and thanks for your patience on that. I will rectify this. We'll customize this for your needs. And thank you guys so much for letting me know that that these things were happening, because I mean, you can only think so broad. You can only kind of cover so many bases. And so one good thing about these campaigns is they're kind of they're evolving, they're kind of changing and growing as you go. And so that I've always liked that. That's why I like comic books, is because I never wanted to be part of a corporate entity, because there's only really this rigid ladder that you can go up. But with
it's soul crushing
and things that we're doing now, we can go in any direction, and even kind of on a fly tweak a campaign. So it's all good, man. Thanks to everybody. I'm going to go and read all of your input. You guys have been messaging me, and I'm going to take all that stuff in consideration. I'll have some dinner with my lovely wife. We have a friend from California hanging out with us, and so we're probably going to go out, get some dinner, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll add those add-ons.
Sounds great.
All right, brother. I'm so glad you're feeling better, Joe.
Me too.
You look great, man.
Thanks. I feel like $1,000,000. I'm getting better every day. Yeah. I feel like I'm probably about 25% back to where I was before I got sick. So it's progress continues to be great. Everybody's support has absolutely been a big part of it. All the well wishes, the prayers, the good vibes, all of it. For me, laughter really is the best medicine. And being in my hospital room and just listening to the shows and the videos, I was just rolling with laughter. I was laughing so hard I was crying. And the nurses would sometimes check on me thinking I was crying from despair. And then they'd hear me laughing and they just see like tears just all down my face. And I'm just laughing as hard as I can. I'm holding my chest because my ribs hurt so bad from all the laughter. And it was so good. But, you know,
It's better
nothing.
your ribs hurting from laughter than coughing. So
Yeah. Yeah. But nothing beats being back and interacting with people live. I can't get enough of it. So thank you guys very much.
yes, indeed. So everybody, go check out Black and White, Volume 2, Man versus Machine. If you like what you see, back the book. Greatly appreciate it. We're actually ending our first 24 hours, so we're starting on our next day here.
Oh,
And
how does that compare, Art, to Volume 1? First 24. You got 30K this time. How was it last time? Do you remember?
I think we ran 2 campaigns for Black and White. So this is not me saying this qualifying.
Yeah.
This is everybody in the chat, because I was very careful about it. We ran
Yeah.
2 campaigns for the same book, like a second chance.
I
And
remember.
between those 2 campaigns, we did the 6-figure little lady. And
Okay.
so I wasn't combining the 2, but everybody in the chat was saying you can combine those 2. That's what that book did. You know, so I'm part of that club. But to answer your question, I think we closed at around 68. So we're almost half of what the Volume 1 did. And that was a 30-day campaign as well.
If you could ask Pamela to look up your first 24 hours on Volume 1, Part 1, I guess,
right,
and then first 24 on your second chance, I'd be very interested to see what the number is, because I'm guessing there's upward growth 1, 2, 3. But I'll tell you offline why I'm asking for this.
Okay.
I think it means very, very good news. I'll put it that way.
All right, brother. Well, everybody take care. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you soon.